Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Fang Girl, a podcast that discusses all things dental hygiene. My name's Kelly, and I'm a registered dental hygienist. In an era where social media is the beacon of communication, I like to be an advocate for oral health by challenging misinformation with an informative outlet for registered hygienists, aspiring hygienists, and non-dental folks. And if that sounds like just about everybody, you're right. Without further ado, let's take a bite into oral health. Okay, hello guys. This is my first podcast ever. I really debated on whether or not to film the podcast so you can either just listen or watch and listen. But honestly, it's really challenging building a set that looks presentable. And there's like a bunch of other technicalities you have to deal with. So for the time being, I'm keeping it as just audio format. However, I am open to filming it. I'm just new at this and felt like I should just start the podcast and figure things out along the way rather than wait for everything to be perfect, because then I would never start. So like I said in my little intro, my name is Kelly and I just graduated in May. I'm currently working at a general office in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And in this first episode, I'm going to talk about how I went from an arts degree to dentistry. Yes, you did hear that right. Arts degree to dental hygiene. But first, I'm going to give a little introduction to Fang Girl, or in other words, what the heck is this about? I talked about this in my announcement on Instagram, so I apologize if you're hearing it for the second time because it's essentially going to be word for word what I had written there. And if you really stalk me, I also wrote it on my website, so it could actually be the third time you're hearing it. But it took me a long time to kind of formulate the right wording on what this platform means to me and what Fangirl's aim is. So rather than simply reword it every time I talk about it, I'd rather be consistent. So here's the Fangirl story for the first time in audio format. Okay, like it or not, today social media is everything. This is how information is being disseminated. While I was in dental hygiene school, I would come across countless videos and advertisements that were not only false, but harmful. From whitening services at beauty salons to do-it-yourself teeth alignment kits, and don't even get me started on going abroad to shave down perfectly healthy teeth into crown preps for veneers. I knew that I wanted to create a social media platform all about the facts and be an advocate for oral health. Additionally, I wanted to make something for aspiring dental hygiene students and hygienists to ideally pay it forward for all the hygienist creators who inspired me along the way. Thus, allow me to introduce you to Fangirl, a podcast that discusses all things dental hygiene. Subscribe if you'd like to join. If all goes swimmingly, I'm planning on releasing one episode on the last Friday of every month because I am working as a hygienist and I do have at least somewhat of a life. I chose Friday because it's the best day of the week. Obviously, if you disagree with me, then tell me what you think the best day of the week is, but I doubt you have an argument that's as good as why Friday is the best day of the week. It's actually psychologically proven that people are happier on Fridays. So why did I choose dental hygiene? I was always a chameleon, okay? There is this meme that every time I see it, it just enrages me because it is so wrong, and I'll post a picture of it if I find it. It's just like this black writing on a white background, and it says you're either a math person or an English person. No one is ever both. And the reason why it enrages me is because I am both, and I felt like I was so weird because I wanted to do everything. And there has been this divide in society where there's like this stereotype that people who are good at science aren't creative, and people who are good at the arts aren't smart, which is just ludicrous because the two go hand in hand. But it's a stereotype that is very strong among young people who are pursuing education. Like, if you have a son who's amazing at physics and is going to this university esteemed for their programs in technology, and he tells you that he wants to go to art school at night for painting, you probably wouldn't understand it and think it doesn't make sense, right? But it's like, why not? Why doesn't it make sense to like a bunch of different things? Why do you have to choose one thing? I know there are people who have one thing they're obsessed with, right? Like that person who lives and breathes soccer. and that is their life. But there are also a ton of people out there more like me, right? Where they're into like a whole bunch of things, but they think there's some rule. They're not allowed to be like that and just need to choose something that sets them down a certain pathway that would be considered like their lane, and that ends up kind of being wrong for them because they had more than one thing they really like to do, right? When I was in high school, I took like every course option there was. Like I took classical history, law, drama, dance, computers. I would switch around in everything. The only options that I didn't take were music and art, and that was because I didn't think that I would be good enough, which is actually a pervasive theme in my history to dental hygiene. So I did go into advanced math and science in high school, and then I left because I didn't think I was smart enough. Now, this ideology came from a couple of different places, but mainly it was because of this one teacher. And this is why being a teacher in elementary and high school is so critical. Things a teacher says to a student between the ages of like 5 and 17 can seriously impact their future. Because at that age, you take things people say really personally. Kids don't have any perspective yet, right? They don't yet realize that whenever somebody says something negative to you and tries to tear you down, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them and their life and their shortcomings. And I had some trouble in advanced science in high school, I'm not going to lie, but I'm like that with a lot of things because a lot of things interest me. I'll start out new and be bad at them, right? And I'll be bad for a while. Like, I guess this should be a secret, but most things I start, I'm so bad at the beginning, you would think I would never be good at them. But I practice and study people who are good and learn from them, and then I do get better. And not only do I get better, but I get really good at things that I was genuinely initially terrible at. And I do believe that everybody can do that. Like your base skill set, or rather what you're naturally good at, let's say, it doesn't mean anything compared to your mindset and your drive. And I had this one teacher in high school who was a science teacher, and she used to basically refuse to answer my questions, wanted to make me sit at the back of the class even though I couldn't see from there, intentionally paired me with the other student in the class who was struggling for a project where we had to create a working current. So you can imagine there were literal sparks flying that day. And she'd call me Penny as a joke. And if you don't know, this was a reference to the Big Bang Theory where, although Penny wasn't actually a dumb Bond character, many people assume it. And she was clueless with anything that had to do with physics, so it was definitely insulting. And this drove me away from science. As high school drew to a close, I had to choose a college program to apply to. And I'd always loved the arts too, especially English. So I went for an honors pre-university program called Liberal Arts that was about exploring culture and civilization from ancient Greece and Rome to the modern world. It was dynamic and led by dedicated and enthusiastic teachers, definitely an excellent program for well-rounded students. Its courses included history, philosophy, literature, and art of the Western world and outwards, and once again, I took every complimentary possible, including in psychology, sociology, mythology, creative writing, name a subject, and I've probably taken a course in it, okay? And it was like I was desperately trying to find my thing, And this is going back to the idea that you're supposed to have like a lane that you stick to, and you're not supposed to be me, where I loved the course I took on anthropology, but I also loved the course I took on modern art, and here, let me take this course on mathematical logic. And then I got to the end of college and had to choose a university program to apply for. And honestly, I was totally lost. Because of my sort of interest in everything, I've had the habit of making life decisions by closing my eyes and throwing a dart at the map, And that's what I did again with university. I'd always liked English, right? And I had seen myself becoming a teacher. I didn't know in what, but I always seen myself becoming a teacher, and I wanted to be a teacher, so I was like, I guess I'll do a major in English and a minor in philosophy and become an English teacher. I got there, and then I realized English literature is all about books. Now, I know that sounds like an absolutely ridiculous realization to have, but I'd been so frenzied to just choose something before the deadline that I didn't even really think about it. And the other kids in the program were so cool, let me tell you, they just loved it. And they were so into it. And that helped me realize that I was not into it. And I went through a really tough time in my life then. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I love the arts, okay? I want to make that clear. And it is 100% a privilege that I got to go to college and study all of what I did. But I'd also loved science. And when I was a kid, I had this mini book of science experiments that I loved. And I remember getting to high school and living for creating a hypothesis and then evaluating the results. And I repressed that because I said, science is for people who are really smart. I'm going to choose the arts, and that's it. And it's a shame, honestly, because as I've gotten older, I've realized that basically everybody has imposter syndrome. And if you get over that and fake it till you make it, then you can do anything you want to. So I started doing research and I found dental hygiene, and I could immediately picture myself as a dental hygienist. Not only that, but there was a dental hygiene program in the college that I'd previously attended that was close to home. And it was the only English dental hygiene program in Quebec, and my first language is English. I had absolutely no knowledge of dentistry. I was not a dental assistant or anything like that, but I went for it. And many people were skeptical, and I don't blame them. I went from going to university to going to adult ed because I was missing prerequisites. I hadn't done math or science in roughly 5 years. And like I said, I'd been through a lot, and I was sort of worried that I was burnt. You know, it's not easy to get into a dental hygiene program. As mentioned, I live in Quebec, in Montreal. From what I've gathered, though, listening to other hygienist influencers from all over Canada and the US, it sounds like it's just hard to get into a dental hygiene program in general, no matter where you're from. But I did it, right? I'm going to leave my story there for today with a reminder that you shouldn't hold yourself back because you think that you belong in a certain lane or box, and you shouldn't feel like it doesn't make sense to want to be like a librarian who's a competitive rock climber or whatever. You don't have to choose one thing. There's a TED Talk that I seen while I was in my last semester of dental hygiene school, and to be completely honest, still question my choices. And it changed my life. It spoke to me like no other talk has, and it's something that I don't hear anybody talk about, which is crazy. The talk is called Stop Searching for Your Passion. It's by Terry Trespicio, and I will definitely be linking it on my Instagram. There are just so many great bits from it, but I'll end with this one. Passion is not a job, a sport, or a hobby. It is the full force of your attention and energy that you give to whatever is right in front of you. And if you're so busy looking for this passion, you could miss opportunities that change your life. And basically what it means is that we kind of live in this culture where it's all about like knowing yourself and like finding what your destiny is as far as your career or whatever. And I mean, you can spend so long doing that, especially if you're somebody like me who like didn't have this one particular thing that I loved, and you kind of have a whole bunch of different things you're interested in. You could spend so long searching for what you're supposed to do that you never actually really do anything. You know what I mean? And I just kind of love the idea of doing whatever's in front of you and just gaining a whole bunch of different experiences, and not just kind of, as I've been saying, shoving yourself into one lane and just staying there and thinking you're not allowed to, try different things and kind of change what you think you were supposed to be doing or whatever, you know? And let me tell you, dental hygiene definitely changed my life. I hope that you guys enjoyed the first episode of Fang Girl, and I look forward to sharing more about my journey and connecting. And that's basically what I want this podcast to be, you know? It's not going to be me like giving you statistics about oral health, even though I do like posting dental facts. I mean, there's no point in having a podcast where I'm just reading out things you can read yourself. I really wanted it to be, yes, about dental hygiene, and of course, I'm going to have episodes all about oral health, but I definitely wanted to bring myself into it a little bit and bring in my background and kind of just speak honestly about kind of my experience, like how I got into dental hygiene school, my experience through school, and then beyond, right, as a hygienist, and kind of my different opinions and views on things. Of course, constantly reassuring what the actual facts are, but not coming off in a scolding way. You know, I think that some dental hygienists can sort of have this bad rap of being people that basically just scold you for not flossing, and that's definitely not what I want my page to be about. I really want to kind of just have this open dialogue and hopefully bring in some cool people to talk about different subjects, including, like I've mentioned, dental hygiene school and oral health and all that. There'll definitely be something for everybody. So like I said, if you're interested, you can subscribe and follow me. Next episode, I'm going to be talking about what prerequisites I needed in order to get into dental hygiene school and how competitive it was. I'm also going to talk about how I went from doing very poorly in advanced math to doing amazing, the bias against adult education, and a few humorous stories from my time there. I'm not sure where you're listening from, but if you didn't get here from my Instagram, it's at KellyRDH. I share a mix of dental content and my own writing. So if you are interested in getting updates about the podcast and or learning more about me, then you can check it out. Until next time.